Welcome to the Lemonhead Podcast, where each week we bring steps to help simplify your life. We cover topics in homeschooling, nutrition, stress-relieving tips, and just about any other topic that would help all of us achieve the life we deserve. Oh yeah, one last thing, we're building our house out of a school bus. With that out of the way, thanks for tuning in. Let's get on with the podcast. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to my second podcast, and I'm super excited to try to figure this stuff out with you as far as what am I going to be talking about specifically in these podcasts. Am I going to break up this information we have into multiple different podcasts, keep it all in one podcast? You know, I'm not sure. So I'm going to be working off the feedback you guys give me. I definitely feel that I have, my family and I have enough information and content to bring to you guys. But what format is it going to be in? I'm not certain. We've spoke about earlier, we have a lot of stuff cooking. We have a lot of stuff going on. We have the conversion of the school bus into a tiny home. We have all this homeschooling that we're doing with our kids that this year we're doing full-time homeschooling with both of our daughters. We have multiple businesses that we're starting on the website. We have also some stuff we're selling through Amazon. We have some niche websites. We have a lot of stuff going on. So how am I going to bring it to you? I'm not sure yet. We're going to just work through it together. As long as you guys give me the feedback, you guys have been giving me a lot of feedback through email, reaching out to me and telling me what you want to hear or what you want me to record as far as the videos go and talk about on the steps of the bus that we're taking. The same goes for this. You guys just, I'm going to be working off what you guys want me to do. But for now, we're just going to kind of put it all together until the time comes to split it apart or leave it together. So in this podcast, what am I going to talk about? I'm going to start off with talking about the bus. So this school bus conversion to a tiny home thing kind of came out from, well, not kind of, it did come from my wife. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do as far as living arrangements. We owned the house in 2008 or, before the crash. And it was, we got caught up in that crash, in the housing crash, like everybody else did, it seems like. And it just kind of wiped us out. And not only wiped us out, it was very discouraging to us. It was a mental blow. Since then, the prices have gone down some here in Miami, but you would think that it would have gone down a lot more. But really, it went down and it's back up, and it's pretty expensive down here. You get a small house down in Miami, and you're easily going to spend upwards of, mid 300s to close to $400,000 to fit a family our size. It's pretty ridiculous what the prices are down here. So as we looked around, and we even started to think of, well, maybe we buy some land and try to build slowly but surely, and even the land is just out of this world expensive. There's not much where you can go to here in South Florida without either running into already built up areas or you're running into the Everglades. So there's not much room to go to. There's no we'll just move out of town type of deal. We do live out of town. We live down in Homestead, Florida, and we are on the outskirts of Miami. We're in the boondocks, supposedly, even though it's pretty heavily populated down here also. As we did this, we started to look at other options like moving out of Florida. We have my wife has family that lives up in Colorado, and in different parts of the country we have family, and we started to look around and look at the different options we had. And as we started to contemplate these moves and run the numbers of how much it would cost us to move, how much the rent would cost us in these different places, the deposits, and so on and so forth, having to find a place to work as soon as we got there, different sources of income to be able to support ourselves. We started to run into a lot of issues pretty quick, that we started to see that it was going to be pretty expensive. A lot of money on the line to move out to this place, to whatever place we decided to move, and not be sure if we even are going to like living there. Like, just let me give you an example. So we started to run the numbers, and we said some places are going to need first and last and then deposit to move into a rental. Let's just say it's on the low end, $1,000 to $1,500 a month. Usually the way it works in Miami, at least, you will leave, 1,500 times 3. So 4,500 just in deposits. And these deposits and rental and this and that is, with usually a 1-year lease or a 1-year rental agreement. Then you need to rent your truck and all your packing materials to put all your stuff in there. You got to go over there, put deposits for your light, deposits your power, the power, the water, all of these things. And when you come to see, these numbers, you can easily start pushing $6,000, $5,500, $6,000, $7,000. And also on top of everything, I do have some, one of my cousins ended up moving up to Pennsylvania. His whole move was close to $7,000. And the funny thing about it is that once he got there, a month or 2 months into it, he started to say, I'm not sure if this is exactly where I want to live and where he wanted to live. And the rough part is that he told me, I just don't have the money to get up and move right away, and I'm kind of stuck in this house for a year, like I said. So that was a scary proposition for my wife and I. All of these expenses, and on top of it all, like, you go out there, like, how are we going to do it? Was she going to move out there first and try to get a job, or am I going to move out there first and try to get a job, or whatever the case might be? And we would have to make a transition where we're separated, from our families, for whoever decides to move out there first for a month or maybe more as things get settled in. It was just a lot that we weren't willing to do. So one day I came home from, one of the jobs that I do, and she told me, what if we make a school bus into a house? And immediately I thought it was a fantastic idea. I thought it was great. I agreed to it, and my wheels in my head started to turn immediately. This is right up my alley. I am a do-it-yourself DIY kind of person that I just, whatever it is, I try to either improve it, make it better, build it myself. It doesn't matter. I've been doing these kind of, well, not school buses, but I've been working on restoring cars and making cars do things they're not supposed to, as far as motor-wise, putting parts from one car to another that is not supposed to go there, making doors open up the way they're not. I've been heavily into customizing cars for a long time. That's one of the jobs that I do on the side. I do that kind of stuff. So to me, thinking of getting a bus and making it into a house was just an awesome idea. So we started to look immediately at how much one of these school buses are going to cost. And luckily, since I'm in this field, I have friends that work in cities and in different locations, whether it's car dealers, like I said, a city. Went ahead and I called up one of my buddies and asked him about how should I go about buying a school bus. Before I even start down this road, it's funny when you tell someone that you're going to buy a school bus, whoever it is, it's the looks and the questions you get are just hilarious. They either start laughing or think you're crazy or whatever the case might be. It's pretty hilarious. So he started to explain to me that if I wanted to buy one of these school buses, that they were probably going to have high mileage if I'm going to buy it from a school board. He did recommend me buying it from a school board because he said that those buses, anything that you get from the city, whether it's a police car or school bus or whatever the case might be, he told me one thing is for certain, that that in these vehicles, they have been maintained by the book, meaning they have certain rules and regulations, and these vehicles have to have certain things done on a certain schedule, mileage-wise. So if the book says we need to change the brakes on whatever amount of miles, for example, 10,000 miles, they're going to have to change that part, whether it needs it or not, the brakes. I was using the brakes as an example. They have to change it whether it needs it or not. They're going to have to go in and change the belts whether it needs it or not. They're going to have to go and do the rebuild of the transmission whether it needs it or not. It doesn't matter. They're going to have to do it at that time. So he said, for certain, even if the vehicle has 100,000 miles, you know that it's been maintained, the proper parts have been used, there has been a maintenance schedule, records, and so on and so forth, to that vehicle. So we went ahead with that information. He also went over the different buses, and the bus with they're called like dog nose buses or flat nose buses. I went ahead and we purchased, my wife and I, we decided to go with the flat nose over because of certain reasons. But one of the main reasons was when he started to explain to me, I assumed that working on a bus with the motor in the front would be easier. His opinion is, and again, I'm probably going to get feedback on this, but this is like everybody has opinions on what is easier or whatever, more comfortable for them on any subject. His opinion was, out of his experience, that working on the school buses with the motors in the back were a little bit easier to work on than the ones with the motor in the front. Because, these buses are so high up off the ground that you would have to end up getting a ladder and get on top of the ladder and, reaching over, and it's a little bit difficult to work on, more difficult to work on than a car. Because, the car, you just open the hood and you just reach over and it's right there. On a school bus, you got to get on top of a ladder, and he said it becomes a little bit, pain in the butt to do it. With the motor in the back, you could get to these motors from the inside of the bus. And you just kind of take these panels off and you can reach the top of the motor from the panels on the inside and not have such a hard time. Also, when we started to think about it, he started to tell me that another thing was the drive shaft. If I wanted to put a lot of storage and a lot of water tanks and all of these things, is this drive shaft. For you guys that don't know, drive shaft is this thing that hooks up to the transmission of the bus and goes all the way to the rear axle, right? The rear end. The rear axles are where the tires are in the back. And this drive shaft is this big tube that goes from the front to the back of whatever vehicle it is, if it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle. And this shaft on these buses are roughly like 6 inches around. So this shaft would not allow me to use the whole center of the bus, and the bus that we purchased is 35 feet long. So let's just say about 28 feet of it all down the middle, because you need to leave that space clear. You need to be able to get to it if something happens. So you can't crowd it. You can't put all of this stuff around it. I mean, you could, but, you would have to make it where stuff can come down if you need to repair anything. If any of the joints go bad, you need to be able to get to it. So by having it the motor in the rear, the drive shaft is this little thing, a couple of inches. I think it's like 2 or 3 feet long, and it's in the back and out of the way, which is great because now it frees up all of the space down the center of the bus where we can put water tanks, storage, batteries, or whatever the case might be. All of this room now is opened up. So, with him telling me that it's a little bit easier to work on, the drive shaft is in the back. Also, we just personally like the way the flat nose buses looks better. That's what we went with, buying a flat nose bus. So we started to look around, trying to find school auctions. One thing is that these school auctions, soon we found out that these school auctions only happen every so often. It's not like every weekend. It's not like once a month. It's like more like, at least here in Miami, anywhere between 6 months to every 9 months. So we were itching to try to buy a school bus. We wanted to get going already. So we started to look around all over the place. We found different auctions in different places, whether, like, for instance, we found some, it wasn't even an auction. It was these school boards selling the buses, just you could come and buy them, like in Texas. I found some up in New York and in different parts, in different parts of the country. And the prices weren't too bad. They were in the price range we were looking, $3,000 to $5,000. But as I started to really think about it, just thinking that, okay, well, I need to fly out there. That's a couple $100. Just say $400, $300 for a one-way ticket. The gas is going to take us to drive it back, whatever, $300, $400. Just the thought of driving this big old bus back to Florida, down to Homestead, Florida, like literally Homestead, Florida is like right before you get into the Keys. So it's like at the tip of the United States down here. So that drive would have taken easily, potentially 2-3 days just driving this big old school bus. And driving this big old school bus is something that I've never, I've driven some big cars, but I've never driven something, 30, 35 feet long, and that's the size that we were looking at, the bigger ones to fit our whole family in there. So as these things, all these thoughts started to go through our head, we kind of decided that we need to find something local. So I was able to find some local guys that buy these school buses from auctions and send them over to either Central America or South American countries. Apparently, these school buses, they buy them here and they send them over there, and they're like big. These people get these buses in Honduras or Guatemala or whatever the case might be, and they like chrome them out and just trick them out, paint them all different colors, and it's out of this world. I'm gonna put some pictures in the blog post associated with this podcast, and you're gonna see it's just crazy. So they were shipping these school buses on a regular basis down to it, and something had happened where the guy they were using or the license or some tax had changed, and it became a little bit too expensive for them to ship these last couple of school buses they had to wherever they were shipping them to. So, they were trying to just sell them here in Miami. So I went out to go take a look at it, and the very first thing I did was I wanted to see where they bought it, how they bought it, how much did it cost, and I could tell that they were kind of desperate to get rid of the buses. So they showed me all the paperwork. They showed me that they had just finished buying this school bus from an auction. It was I think it was 2 months before I came to see it. They showed me the picture of it at the auction. It was never registered to anyone else. Still had the auction papers on the window. They had paid $3,800, I think it was, or $4,000. It was like $4,000 they paid for it, and it was just they purchased it, and they were in a group of buses that they were planning to send, and this one just wasn't able to make it, and also a couple of other ones, but this one wasn't able to make it. So I took my dad with me. Any big purchase, you always take your mom or your dad. No, but my dad it's all of the stuff that I've ever learned about vehicles. He had a body shop. This is what he's been doing his whole life. And it's always, when you're doing such a big purchase, it's always good to have another extra pair of eyes and somebody else that has a clear head that's not being clouded by the excitement of purchasing this big thing to give you your opinion. So I crawled around, looked at the bus, saw the paperwork, and it all worked out. It was all on the up and up. So they wanted I think they wanted $5,000 or $5,300, and I was able to work them down to $4,800. I bought it right there instantly. That day, I went and saw it, and I bought it. Came back the next day with my wife, and we drove it back. Now, driving it back was insane. Like I said, we live down in Homestead, and this is up in North Miami, and it's about 45 minutes to an hour drive through traffic, through the expressway. The traffic here in Miami is insane. Everybody's trying to ram you off the road, and I'm here driving this big old bus, just dying, freaking out, not knowing if I was just freaking out, not knowing if I was gonna drive off the road. I was just sweating bullets, going nuts. And like I said, I've driven big cars. I mean, I had one of my first cars were a dually, a big dually, and I thought that was big. This is ridiculous. So I got it to the property where I work on all the vehicles, all the restoration jobs, any mechanical or welding or working on a trailer, whatever the case might be. I drove it there and I parked it there. And we both, my wife and I got out and looked at this bus, and we were just like, we can't believe we just bought this. It was insane and scary and happy. All these feelings mixed up all at once. And, I never regretted the purchase. I was ecstatic and just happy that we did this. That's about it. I don't want to let this podcast go too long. We have, there's plenty of stuff to talk about the bus, and I don't want to fit it all up in one podcast. I want to break it up and make them, I want to try to keep these podcasts under 30 minutes. So I think I'm about 20 minutes right now. So I'm going to try to, finish it up here. Like I said, if you guys want anything specific for me to talk about on the purchase of the bus or any other subject that we're going to start bringing to you, feel free to ask me. Send an email, comment in a blog post, whatever the case might be, and I'll try to bring you exactly what you want. I'm going to try to bring my wife in on one of these podcasts soon, maybe the next one or the one after, and because she's basically the one that's in charge of the whole homeschooling with our kids. And I think that's something that a lot of people are going to have a lot of interest in, because for us, this bus and the whole project, it's an all-encompassing thing. This is we're not just doing the school bus and that's it. We're trying to change our whole life around this concept. We're trying to do a whole package. The homeschooling, the businesses, the bus. We're trying to make this new lifestyle that's all interwoven together as one unit. So to us, it's like a whole package deal. So let's see when I bring her on. We're kind of waiting for some more equipment, a second microphone. It should be coming soon. So as soon as that second microphone comes in, that way I'm also trying to bring you the best quality as possible. So it's kind of like we don't want to be moving the microphone back and forth. I want it to sound good for you, good audio for you. The same thing with the videos that I've been bringing. I've been trying to upgrade all of my equipment as quickly as possible, so that way the videos look good, and when I explain stuff on the videos, it sounds good. So if there's anything as far as the sound or the video quality you think needs to be improved, that's another thing. Feel free to either give me recommendations or tell me what you dislike or like, so that way I can improve those things. I guess thanks very much, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll be speaking to you soon. Thanks. Bye, guys.